let's discuss lost wages and lost wage claims following an auto accident. If you are unable to work after an accident, you are certainly entitled to receive the lost wages that you incurred. Now, the kicker with lost wages is it must be provable with 100% certainty. You never want to go into making a lost wage claim arguing for something that you cannot document. Not only are you just not going to get it, but if your case goes all the way to trial, a jury will be very hesitant to provide you any lost wages that aren't 100% able to be proved with documentation. So documents are the king when it comes to lost wage claims. Now the two pieces of documents that you need are, one is proof of pay, so the amount that you're actually claiming, and two is a doctor's note. You need to have a doctor saying that yes, it was reasonable and necessary for you to take off a certain amount of time because of the injuries you suffered in the accident. And so you have to have those two sources of documentation, those two sources of evidence in order to present a valid lost wage claim. Now, the biggest piece of advice that I can give for making a lost wage claim is do whatever you can to get back to work as soon as possible. If you can work with your employer so that way you work with reduced hours or with different tasks or whatever it may be to get you back into work as quickly as possible, not only will that help you because you're not going to get paid those lost wages until the end of the case, absent some special payments for PIP that we discuss in a different video. But for the bulk of your pay, you won't be getting that until the end of the case. So getting back to work is important just to maintain your ability to pay your bills. But also from a legal perspective, and when you're arguing lost wages and an entire claim, personal injury claim in front of a jury, juries like to see that you went back to work. They like to see that you are trying to do what you can to return to your pre-accident status. If you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs saying, hey, I hit the jackpot, I got in an accident, so I'm going to get paid a ton of money and I'm going to get all these lost wages and I can just sit around and watch TV all day, you will lose that case. And you deserve to lose that case because that's not the purpose of an injury claim. The purpose of an injury claim is to compensate you for the injuries that you actually suffered. And if you're not doing your part to get better, then those are not injuries that you will get paid for. So very important to get back to work as quickly as possible. Now, assuming that you are getting back to work and doing everything right, let's discuss what you need in the different types for the different types of employment. So if you're a W-2 employed individual, lost wage claims are pretty simple. What I typically ask my clients to get is 3 months of their prior pay stubs. So I have 3 months of pay stubs showing exactly how much they made in the prior 3 months. And then of course the doctor's note saying how long it is a reasonable time to be out of work. And then it's really easy to do the math and show the insurance company exactly what those lost wages are. Where it gets a little bit more difficult is for all of my self-employed clients. And that, depending on the type of job that you have, it can be very difficult. Most of the time, I'm able to ask for either 3 to 6 months of prior income, of proof of prior income. So for example, for many of our clients who might drive for Uber or Lyft, then those clients, I'll say, hey, give me all of your income for the past 3 to 6 months. And then what you can do is you can calculate the average amount of income per week or per day or per month or whatever it may be, and then use that to say, hey, I was out of work for 2 months because of this accident. Here's my prior income from the last 6 months. It's a pretty easy calculation to show what the amount of lost wages is. But again, it comes down to the documentation. So it comes down to showing the work that was performed. And if the work is sporadic and it's and you work a bunch one month, but not much the next month. When you go in and you try to tell the insurance company, hey, that I got injured in an accident where I was going to work a bunch that month. Well, that's not a very persuasive argument. So it really goes down to the history of what you've been doing and showing that average over time where it makes sense for the amount that you're claiming in lost wages. Another difficult claim is for those individuals who have not been working for a long period of time, and they say, well, the month after I got in the accident, that's when I was going to start working. Well, that's a real tough claim to make because the history again just does not show it. If, however, you have the documentation, maybe employment applications, maybe an offer letter from an employer or a letter from the person who you were going to work for saying that yes, you were going to start in a month and this was going to be your pay, then we can use that to argue for lost wages. But again, it comes down to the documents. It comes down to the what we can show somebody who's skeptical, and show them that in fact you are entitled to these lost wages. And again, for our self-employed clients, we need a doctor's note. You have to have a doctor's note showing that you needed to stop work or miss a period of time of work. And so those would be considered the necessary documentations for a lost wage claim. Now, for some self-employed individuals, especially if they own a small business with employees, lost wages can also come in the form of hiring somebody new. So let's say that you have a landscaping business and you used to be one of the crew out there doing the landscaping, but you were injured and unable to do that anymore. Well, if you had to hire somebody, so you had to hire somebody to come in and pick up the 40 hours a week that you were working on the landscaping. So maybe the business itself did not lose money, but you lost money because now you have to pay somebody for the additional work that you would have performed. So that is another form of lost wages. Again, contracts, pay stubs to your new employees, all of the documentation to show what was actually spent is necessary for the lost wage claim. So finally, some clients that I've had, have only cash only type businesses, or they're quote unquote working under the table. If you're in that situation, you're just not going to get lost wages. If you were not paying taxes, there is a high probability that you would not get lost wages. Not only do you lack the documentation that's needed to show the amount of income, but ultimately, if you're standing in front of a jury and say, hey, I want these lost wages, all the opposing side has to do is stand up and say, well, you didn't pay any taxes for the last 5 years, but you're telling us that you made all this money where you should have been paying taxes. Why were you cheating the government? And if the defense can convince the jury that you're cheating the government, then there's no way that the jury is going to compensate you for your injury claim, let alone your lost wage claim. So unless you have the documentation to back it up and show that you were in the right here, that you were doing everything above board, then you're just not going to get a lost wage claim. So those are the elements of a lost wage claim. But then you can also make a claim for future earning capacity. So if you have suffered injuries that are so disabling that you cannot work in the future, then that's certainly a claim that you need to make. Now, in those situations, it's usually a very significant injury. If it's a minor injury or just ongoing neck and back pain and you're trying to claim that you were unable to work at all, well, you're probably going to look pretty uncredible going in front of a jury and making that argument, because most people have some sort of back pain. Most people have some sort of neck pain. And so if you're saying, hey, I have neck and back pain and I can't work at all, the juror, three of your jurors are going to be sitting there saying, hey, well, I have neck and back pain, but I still work every day. And so it needs to be a serious injury, and your doctors need to support the reason for you not to be working. So it's very important to have your doctors come in and then testify and explain to the jury why your injuries are so severe that you cannot work at all. But if you can't work at all, then you definitely have a future lost earning claim. And most of the time what we do in those situations is we'll hire an economist to come in and review all of your income records from 2 or 3 years from before the accident, your tax records from 2 or 3 years before the accident, and then be able to present to the jury what you would have made had you been able to continue working, and you can present a claim for those future lost wages. So again, though, it comes down to the documentation. It comes down to the documentation of proving what is fair compensation for the time that you lost or your inability to work.